This is my story, the story of my life, the Christine Keeler story.
Scandal has always brought opportunities for some of those caught in its wake, or at least for those looking to make a quick buck on the back of other people's misery. This is the Overlooked Hotel, and this is the story of the suggestively lustful sounds of Miss X and her Profumo-flavoured novelty single. In 1963, the Profumo Scandal was sending shockwaves through the British establishment and shaking up society every bit as much as the Beatles and the Lady Chatterley trial had. If we want to pinpoint when the 60s finally kicked into gear, then this was probably it. The tale of a cabinet minister caught up with loose-moralled models, sex parties and Russian spies finally punctured the sense of deference that politicians had both expected and received, and while the establishment tried to close ranks, the genie was out of the bottle. This is a story that's fascinated me for years, and while not exactly overlooked, it is one that I might well explore in depth in a later video. For now, though, I'll focus on some of the cultural overspill of this headline-grabbing story of sex, drugs and espionage, where the establishment took a last stand against the changing moral attitudes of the time. Naturally, the story was catnip for the new breed of satirists like Private Eye, the Establishment Club, and That Was the Week That Was, as well as the tabloids, even if the reporting of the case was often simplistic and designed to throw Stephen Ward, falsely vilified as a pimp, under the bus while protecting politicians. MP John Profumo might have had his career destroyed, but he wasn't dragged through court and driven to suicide like Ward, and there seems to have been little appetite in the press for probing just how many other politicians might have been up to hypocritical mischief in their private lives. Certainly the gatekeepers of public morality went out of their way to shut down exploitation of the story as much as possible. The film The Christine Keeler Affair was banned by the British Board of Film Censors for vacuous reasons, and the novelty single Christine, performed by Miss X, was banned from airplay by the BBC. Nevertheless, the single did creep into the top 40, peaking at number 37. "My name's Christine, what's yours?" asks Miss X at the start of this lounge-tastic cool jazz number, where suggestion is all. There's nothing overtly rude in the minimalist lyrics, but there's certainly the hint that when Christine says, "I'm a good girl, I told you I was good," giggles and then promises that your secret is safe with me, the implication is that she might be up to all manner of naughtiness, possibly with a top politician. The B-side, SEX, is a continental variation on the theme, and continental, of course, automatically makes it steamier. Miss X was, in fact, Joyce Blair, actress and younger sister of Lionel, and a veteran performer by this point. She was 31 when Christine was recorded. The song was written by the prolific Leslie Bricusse, who had written Stop the World, I Want to Get Off with Anthony Newley, and would go on to write music and or lyrics for the likes of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Goodbye Mr. Chips, Scrooge, and Victor Victoria. His co-writer was the impressively named Count Jaime de Mora e Aragon, who was an eccentric Spanish aristocrat, musician and actor. Though there are still those who claim that the music was actually written by John Barry, or perhaps Barry just produced the record. The jury is still out. There was, strangely or not, a genuine Miss X involved in the Profumo Scandal. During Ward's farcical trial, a 19-year-old, known only as Miss X, was dragged into court by the prosecution to tell a story of how Ward had asked her to have sex with an unnamed man in front of a two-way mirror. The purpose of this move was to show that Ward was a bad sort, morally bankrupt, and not only a pimp and procurer, but also perhaps a blackmailer. Unfortunately, Miss X, described by veteran journalist Ludovic Kennedy as a tall girl with very black hair and Anglo-Indian features, made it quite clear that Ward had been joking with her when he made the suggestion and that nobody took it seriously. The story went nowhere, except perhaps as insinuation, and insinuation was all the prosecution had in this case, and all it needed as it turned out. Miss X, unlike Keeler and Mandy Rice-Davies, was never identified or chased by the press at the time, or indeed subsequently. She slipped back into obscurity after her appearance in the witness box, for which she was probably very grateful. While Rice-Davies and Keeler both achieved a degree of celebrity for their roles in the scandal, it would prove, for Keeler at least, to be as much a millstone as a stepping stone, and her life in later years was not a happy one. While the Profumo affair titillated the nation for decades, the price those involved paid for what should have been private sexual hijinks was a high one. Perhaps surprisingly, Christine Keeler didn't release any records herself. You might have thought that a record deal would be obvious given the notoriety of the case, but perhaps she was too much of a hot potato or simply wasn't interested. The latter seems rather unlikely given how she milked her fame with an involvement in the film The Christine Keeler Affair, which, as I mentioned earlier, was banned in Britain for clearly political reasons, and her several book projects, most of which have variation on Scandal as the title, and which tend to be exploitative cash-ins or grim warts-and-all autobiographies, depending where she was in her life at the time. She did have songs named after her in later years by bands like the Klaxo Babies and Senseless Things, amongst others. Mandy Rice-Davies, having a slight remove from the murkiest political elements of the case, had a more successful period of celebrity and released a handful of 7-inches in Europe, including Hey Mr. Robinson in 1964, and had a fairly successful cabaret career for a few years.
Hey, Mr. Robinson, muss denn das so sein? Deine Insel ist ein Paradies, aber ohne Eva hab's so süß. Hey, Mr. Robinson, warum so allein und bist...
The record was released in the UK on the Ember label, the same label responsible for the Miss X single, leading to rumours that she was the voice behind it. Mandy would cash in on her notoriety with a tell-all book and The Mandy Report, a magazine spoof of the Denning report into the Profumo affair. Out of all the people involved, she probably did the best out of it, becoming a bona fide celebrity, and in later years an actress in Euro softcore films like Black Venus and Nana, Bruno Mattei's Magnificent Seven Gladiators, and even Absolute Beginners. As she once noted, my life has been one long descent into respectability. She died in December 2014. Keeler died 3 years later in December 2017. The best record to emerge from the Profumo affair, a quarter of a century later, was Dusty Springfield's Nothing Has Been Proved from the 1989 movie about the case Scandal. The track was written by and performed with the Pet Shop Boys and is a neat and suitably indignant summary of the whole grubby story. As ever, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, both the single and the entire scandal that inspired it. If you're interested in me going further into this tale, by all means let me know. And if you enjoy these left field dives into forgotten culture, then why not like and share this video, and subscribe of course to ensure that you never miss any of our future posts. Every bit of support helps us continue with this vital work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.